He could barely feed himself, yet he opened his door to children with nowhere else to go. Night after night, he slept on a cold floor so they could rest on the few foam mattresses he owned. Neighbors mocked him, his landlord threatened him, and his body slowly gave in to the strain. Then an elderly man across the street handed him a beat-up foam mattress out of quiet concern. What he discovered hidden inside it would test his integrity and change their lives forever. Before we continue, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. The pain arrived before the light. It settled deep in his lower back, slow and familiar, and the kind that did not announce itself, but waited until he acknowledged it. He lay still on the bare floor, eyes fixed on the ceiling where old watermarks traced shapes he had memorized over time. The house breathed around him, soft, crowded, alive. Foam mattresses covered most of the room, thin and uneven, pushed close together to make space. Children slept on them in loose clusters. One had kicked off a blanket in the night. Another mumbled in a dream. Shoes lined the wall without order. School bags hung from nails that bent under their weight. Every inch of the room had learned to serve more than one purpose. He rolled onto his side and paused. His hand pressed into the floor as he pushed himself up slowly, careful not to trigger the sharp edge of the pain too early. When he stood, he stayed there for a moment, breathing through it, and he had learned that rushing only punished him later. The kitchen was barely a kitchen. A small burner, a dented pot, a wooden spoon worn smooth from use. He stirred rice left from the night before and added water to stretch it. As he stirred, he counted. Bowls, hands, portions. He always counted. Outside, voices floated past the open window. Two women stood near the gate. Their words were not meant to be quiet. "He is doing too much," one said. "He thinks he can carry everyone," the other replied. A pause, then laughter. "With what money?" He did not look up. He scraped the bottom of the pot so nothing stuck. He had learned which sounds deserved attention and which did not. As the house woke, the quiet broke apart. Children shuffled in barefoot. A boy complained about a missing shirt. A girl asked if today was a school day, and another stared at the food, waiting to be told it was enough. He answered each one without raising his voice. When a shoe strap broke, he knelt and tied it with string. When a child asked if it would last, he nodded. "For today," he said. That was honest. By late morning, the landlord arrived. He did not enter. He never did. He stood at the door, blocking the light. "This is not what we agreed on," he said, eyes moving from one child to the next. "You are turning this place into something else." The man listened. He kept his hands at his sides. The words came as they always did. Noise, numbers, rent. He nodded once. He did not argue. When the landlord left, the door stayed open longer than necessary. He closed it gently. Across the street, an elderly man sat outside his house, hands folded over a walking stick. He watched without staring, and he had been there most days, silent, still. Evening came with tired footsteps and dusty uniforms. Homework spread across the floor. He moved among the children, correcting here, explaining there. A child laughed at a mistake and hid their face. He tapped the page lightly and pointed again. "Look closer," he said. The child tried again. Dinner was quiet. Plates emptied. He washed them one by one, shoulders tight, back burning. When the lights went out, the children settled onto the foams. There were not enough. He waited until breathing slowed, then lowered himself onto the floor again. The cold crept in through the concrete. He folded his arms across his chest and stared into the dark. Tomorrow already pressed against his thoughts. He did not plan far ahead. He never could. He listened to the room until sleep finally claimed him, carrying the ache with him into the night. The elderly man across the street had been there longer than most people could remember. His house sat back from the road, paint faded, gate always closed, but never locked. He moved slowly, but his eyes missed little. From his chair near the window, he watched the rhythm of the opposite house unfold each day. He saw the children leave in the mornings, some in uniforms too big for them, others in clothes passed down too many times to count. He noticed how they walked together, never alone, as if the street itself demanded caution. He saw the man stand at the door until the last child turned the corner, then remain there a few seconds longer, shoulders slightly hunched, as though bracing himself for the rest of the day. One afternoon, the old man crossed the street. His steps were careful. He measured. The gate creaked when he pushed it open. Inside, the man was fixing a chair leg with a nail he had bent straight by hand. He looked up, surprised. "I hope I am not disturbing you," the old man said. "No," the man replied. He wiped his hands on his trousers and offered a seat. The old man declined and remained standing, leaning lightly on his stick. They spoke at first about small things: the weather, the noise from the road, the children. The old man's eyes moved around the room, not in judgment, but in quiet accounting. The thin foams, the patched walls, the careful order holding everything together. Later that evening, after the children had settled, a sound carried through the open window. A low groan. Then another, sharper this time. The old man paused where he sat. He listened. The sound came again, a restrained but heavy with strain. He crossed the street once more, this time without hesitation. He knocked gently. When the door opened, he saw the man standing stiffly, one hand pressed against his back. "You are in pain," the old man said. It was not a question. "It passes," the man replied. They sat. The room was quiet except for distant traffic and the soft breathing of children asleep. The old man waited. Silence stretched. At last, he spoke. "Why do you live like this?" The man did not answer immediately. He stared at the floor, at the cracks he had filled more than once. When he spoke, his voice was even. "I grew up without anyone," he said. "I slept in places worse than this. Hunger teaches you things. So does being unwanted." He shifted slightly, careful again of his back. "If they can eat," he continued, "if they can sleep and go to school without fear, then they have a chance. I did not. I will not take that from them." The old man listened without interrupting. His fingers tightened around the stick. His eyes shone briefly, then steadied. He nodded once, slowly. "I see," he said. He did not offer advice. He did not praise. He stood, thanked the man for his time, and walked back across the street. At his door, he paused. He looked back once more at the crowded house, then went inside. That night, he did not sleep. He sat at the edge of his bed, hands resting on his knees, thoughts moving through years he rarely visited. Faces, choices, regrets. Trust was not something he gave easily, but some things, once seen clearly, could not be unseen. Morning came quietly. The children left as usual. The man stood at the door until they were gone. But across the street, the elderly man was already awake. His decision settled deep inside him, heavy but certain. The elderly man returned the following evening carrying a rolled foam mattress balanced against his shoulder. It looked old, the fabric faded and uneven, the corners worn soft from years of use. He did not explain himself. He simply stood at the gate and waited until the man noticed him. "I thought this might help," he said, setting the foam down carefully. "It is not new, but it is clean." The man hesitated. His eyes moved from the foam to the old man's face. He shook his head once. "You do not have to do this." "I want to," the old man replied. His voice carried no insistence, only finality. The foam was dragged inside and placed against the wall. The children touched it, as if it might disappear. One asked who would sleep on it. The man said nothing. He waited until night. When the house finally grew quiet, he lowered himself onto the foam for the first time in months. The surface dipped under his weight. At first, relief washed through him. His spine settled. His muscles loosened. He closed his eyes. Then the pain returned, sharper than before. Something pressed against his lower back, hard and unyielding. He shifted. The pressure followed. He turned onto his side. The pain remained, focused and deliberate, as if the foam were hiding something that refused to move. He sat up slowly, breathing through clenched teeth. Sweat gathered at his temples. He pressed his hand into the foam and felt it clearly now. A solid shape beneath the surface, too large to be a flaw, too deliberate to be ignored. Sleep did not come again that night. By morning, doubt had replaced gratitude. He rolled the foam into the light and examined it closely. The fabric showed no tear, no sign of tampering. Still, the shape remained, silent and stubborn. The children left for school. The house emptied. He stood alone with the foam, the room unusually quiet. His hands hovered over it, uncertain. He thought of the old man's eyes, of the careful way the foam had been carried, of the silence that followed. At last, he fetched a knife from the kitchen. The blade was dull. He pressed it into the fabric and sliced slowly, the sound rough against the stillness. Foam parted. His breath caught. Bundles stared back at him. They were wrapped neatly, stacked with care, protected from moisture and time. He touched one and felt the weight immediately. Real, solid, unmistakable. He stepped back, as if burned. Fear came first, not excitement. His heart raced, his mind filled with questions that had no patience for answers. He thought of the landlord, the neighbors, the children. He thought of police sirens and locked doors. He thought of consequences. He did not count the money. He did not need to. He closed the foam again with shaking hands and dragged it back across the street. The old man answered the door as if he had been waiting. "There is something inside," the man said, voice tight. "This cannot be mine." The old man nodded. "I know." They sat. The foam lay between them, cut and exposed. The old man spoke slowly, each word chosen. "I saved it over many years," he said. "I do not trust banks. I trust what I can touch. I hid it where no one would look." The man stared at him. "How much?" "500,000, the old man replied. Silence settled heavily between them. "You should keep it," the man said at last. "It is your life." The old man shook his head. "It is finished with me." He leaned forward slightly. "I watched you. I saw what you carried without asking for praise. Institutions lose money. People lose focus. You do not." The man looked away, overwhelmed. His chest tightened. "I do not want to be responsible for this," he said quietly. "You already are," the old man replied. "Just not with money." The foam remained on the floor between them, open and waiting. The foam stayed in the old man's house for 3 days, and it was not discussed again during that time. No agreements were signed. No plans were spoken aloud. The money remained where it was, cut open, visible, as if its presence alone demanded respect. On the fourth day, the man returned alone. He did not bring the children. He did not bring questions. He brought a notebook folded in his pocket. They sat at the small table near the window. Outside, people passed without slowing. Life continued, unaware.